everybody. Welcome back to Opreas Open Mic.
Hey,
I am
welcome.
Erin Oprea. We have
Sean Oprea, hello.
And then we have our first guest for the day. We got Amber Sims here in our studio, and we are going to be talking all things about our jury trial we just went through.
Federal jury duty.
Federal
criminal.
Jury duty. Let's get it all right.
Mm-hmm.
So Amber was one of the jurors with me, and so you guys have been asking lots of questions. It was a kind of crazy experience. We learned a lot. Laughed a lot, sat a lot.
Yeah.
I laughed a lot not in the courtroom.
Just to clarify.
In our juror room. But it was interesting. I mean, I've never had an experience where they take your phone all day.
All day long. 8 hours.
Yeah.
But 1 hour.
Turn our phones in and
God,
like,
so
you have a job?
phone.
Sorry. Sorry. Figure it out. You're here for this job now.
Yeah.
And you make the big bucks. I mean, we got paid $50 a day.
And 63 cents on the gallon. Thank you very much.
But I was
plus parking, right?
Plus parking.
Plus parking.
But I was
win-win.
less than a mile, so I got less than 63 cents.
Okay. Less than a mile away, still drove, chose the expensive parking lot because she could get out faster.
It's true.
Because I wanted to come home for
We
lunch so I
lost
could
so
play with the
much money
dogs.
because of your jury duty.
I didn't care. It was worth it so I could play
I'm
with
in
dogs
charge of the
during lunch.
budget, and the budget didn't allow the expensive parking.
Life goes on. I got paid $50.
Yeah,
All
you
right,
did.
so let's hit it, Sean. So you guys have asked a bunch of questions about the case, and we're going to kind of just go from the beginning.
Yeah.
You ready?
All right. So my first question: did anybody fight in the jury room? Were there any punches thrown?
You know what? There was no punches thrown, but it was...
There's some intense moments.
Oh.
There were some moments I was
Yeah.
like, wow, we got some fireballs in here.
Yes,
Let's go.
yes.
Let it roll,
No
baby.
punches.
Yes.
No, like
No punches, but there were a
courtroom
couple of
drama
times.
moment.
I would say the biggest drama moment, and fast forwarding a little bit, was whenever one of the witnesses' family members heard something and saw something that just brought all the memories back and jumped up and stormed out of the courtroom.
Oh, that was really,
wow.
it was really sad. Actually,
actually very sad.
that was an actual heartbreaking time. Actually,
Yeah.
One of the family members stormed out.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was really sad.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start from the beginning.
All right.
What?
So, how were you chosen as
question.
one of the 12, 14?
Well,
14 down to 12.
yes, because there's 14. I learned this. There's 14 jurors picked, but only 12 are actual jurors because the other 2 are alternates. But you don't know to the end who
Very
the
end.
alternate is.
So you sit through literally all of the process the entire week. You sit through everything. Well, a week and a half for us. And then you go through all of the stuff in the jury room and you go through all of the logistical stuff. And at the very end, when it's time for us to deliberate, that's when they say, okay, numbers 13 and 14, you can go home.
So I don't know if it's always 13, 14. That was what it
Right.
was for ours. I don't know if that's
I think
standard.
some of you had said that it was.
Yeah. So, and different states do different things, is what
Yeah.
I've heard. I've heard
Even in
California. I don't know.
I don't know.
California says they're different, and so that
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me. But
Yeah.
I'm from California. I
So
mean,
they were obviously looking for badass women. Is that basically what it was
obviously.
all?
oh yeah,
clearly.
all women.
There
All
we-
right. So this is kind of how it happened. We all. I got summoned for a whole month of jury duty, which is the same. I got hit for the month of August, and every Monday you're supposed to check in. But on the second week, which is so weird because it's like check in, but then
Yeah,
oh,
you
too
checked
bad
in.
you have a job. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not going.
Oh, no, they say you have to go in, or it's very clear on your jury summons. It'll say you'll be fined up to $1,000 and possibly could go to jail in
Yes.
real time. Like you have to show up. Yeah.
So the first week I didn't get called. I called in, nothing. They said, well, this time, the second week, we need you to call in on Sunday. So
Right.
we called in on Sunday, and they said, no, you have to be there at 7. You have to be there at 7:45 Monday morning. And I was like,
Early.
what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so we show up. We all sit in this
your
room.
drive. I mean,
Well, I was
our
gonna
drive's
say
5
early
minutes.
for
Your
me,
drive, yeah.
and because like it
You had-
took over an hour, and I'm only like 20 something miles away, but it took over an hour in Nashville traffic. So I was like leaving my house by like 6:15.
I'm lucky because I'm less than a mile because I do live downtown.
Dude,
So
we know that. We used to drive that all the time from down
Yeah.
24.
Oh, yeah,
and
so
so
you know.
we would leave.
The worst.
If you left like 30 minutes earlier, you'd have half as long of a drive.
Yeah.
100%.
Right?
But
It's
so
just the
it was
most
basically from
ridiculous
all
thing.
over. So it wasn't just Davidson County. The actual crime did not take place in Nashville, which is a lot of people, that's what they think.
Right.
It did not. So we're all in this room. They take your phones. You go upstairs to the actual courtroom, and you're split in two groups, basically half and half, and the judge asks a ton of questions.
Ooh, what did he ask?
The first thing you do, you stand up, you say your name, where you live,
What you do.
If you're married, your husband's name or spouse's name, and what they do.
And definitely going to say this because it's super weird, but apparently a constitutional right. Who was listening to all this personal information?
The defendant.
The defendant.
And was
So
taking
they have
notes.
all your information.
And took notes.
Yeah, he was taking notes.
I was like, that's not really
All
safe.
the jurors stood up and said, and then said,
Yeah.
"You said who I was. Why you got to put me under the bus on this?"
Exactly.
But
No, I'm not there. He's innocent. He's innocent.
She was like, his name is Sean Opreas.
and this is his address. I don't live there.
This is a picture. This is his picture. Do you want a copy? I brought wallets. Wallet sizes for everyone.
100%
All right.
threw
All
you
right.
under the bus.
So then we stand up and say all this, and then some of the questions they asked about basically, do you have any like federal or government ties in? And so I stood up and said, I was military police as well as my ex-husband. He was Secret Service. We used to live in D.C. And I thought for sure they're not going to want to. Yeah,
for sure.
And he's a cop. I was like, there's no way.
I think that's so interesting. Everybody, because you guys didn't talk to each other, but
No.
everybody had their own idea of what would get them out of jury duty.
100%.
Okay, what'd you say?
Okay, so I was like, I'm going to tell all the things about myself that I know are going to get me out of this. And they're all true. So I was like, hi, my name is Amber Sims. I live blah, blah, blah. I work at a Christian school and my husband's a pastor. These are all true, by the way. My husband's a pastor of a Baptist church and we like to knit and crochet together as a family. Like I was trying to say all the things that would for sure like not have them choose.
Well,
like
I
all
think
the
that's
things.
hilarious. They're like, we do not want crocheters on this jury.
On this
And I
jury.
know it. I'm going to let them know
I'm gonna
it.
let them know it for sure. Yeah, and I was like, whew, got that off my chest, and now I'm good.
But
Nope.
then they just asked us a ton of questions. What are your thoughts on guns? Do you believe in the rights to have guns? Just tons and tons
like,
of questions.
do you feel like you could be non-biased, or are you biased when it comes to race or when it comes to gender? Are you someone that has an issue with like a heavy criminal scene? Are you able to watch it? Is it something that would disturb you? Would you get nervous to judge someone? Would you be nervous if you had to give a verdict that would affect someone's life? They ask you very personal
What did you
questions.
answer to those?
It's just it was basically raise your hand if you have an issue with this. Raise your hand if you have an issue with this. So you didn't really stand up and say anything.
Yeah,
so you were all
individually.
raising it at the same time.
Correct. So they would say, do you have an issue?
Did you two raise your hand when you said, would you have an issue sentencing somebody or whatever?
No, because it was like,
I didn't raise my hand.
it was like the only times
would
that
you
I
do
raised.
it next time?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't ever lie on because
because you're under oath, which, by the way, you skipped that part. You actually walk into the courthouse, they make you raise your right hand, and you are sworn under oath to tell the truth, the whole truth,
and nothing
but the truth. And then they let you know you'll be in perjury of the court if you tell a lie. And at that point, you're like, well, okay, of course I'm going to tell the truth. You're terrified.
Man, we had all those lies planned for you to get out of jury duty, and you didn't say any
Sean,
of them.
I think,
Any of them.
wanted
She
me
didn't
on
say
it.
any of them?
He's like,
Deep down.
she's gone all day. Yes. All right,
Listen,
so
okay.
Sean,
yes.
we need to get going on the topic now. All right,
I
so
think we're good.
Lots of questions about what it was actually a super intense case. It was about a week and a half long. And what the case was, I'll go into a lot of details. Basically, it was kidnapping, it was carjacking, it was shooting,
Robbery.
it was robbing,
Attempted homicide. It was commercial interstate commerce.
That's the question. What made it federal? That's we'll go through that. All right. Well, let's just start from the beginning of what happened. So basically, there's 3 guys. 2 pled guilty and are basically working for the government now and
Get a lesser sentence.
yeah. So they
But
pled
they don't
guilty.
know that.
No, they don't.
They don't know. They're hoping.
They're hoping.
Yeah,
There
they're
it is.
hoping
Okay.
that their,
They are
their
not
testimony. They're not promising anything, but they're hoping their testimony will help get them a lesser sentence. Because right now these guys are facing like 3 life sentences on top of each other for all their crimes and what they've done. Yeah, and our defendant pled not guilty. That's why he got a full trial.
And I don't understand. I still to this day don't understand what made him say not guilty. Like it was so black and white on so much of it. But some of the jurors still had a hard time, even though it was black and white.
We'll get to the end.
Not black and white as in it was obvious.
Right? Yeah.
To you two.
Right.
Maybe if somebody
All right, so
like me was there, I would bring some sense into the gray
whatever.
area.
Yeah. We had some people bring
sure.
sense. Don't worry.
Yeah, trust me, that got yeah.
So how it started is the two guys on the stand basically said everything. And they had a lot of video to back it all up. So it started with
the two witnesses that were talking about the events were two of the three people
Two of the
that were
three.
involved in all of this.
Correct. So they basically said they were selling drugs. Some drugs came up missing and some money in their stash. All three of them were selling drugs. Some of that came up missing. And so their way to make that money back, their plan was to go rob some gas stations.
Right.
So the first one went well. They went in, robbed the gas station. They
At gunpoint.
Yes, at gunpoint. They took money. This is what's important though. Doesn't sound important. They took cigarettes. They took snacks, beer.
They took the charity money out of the charity jar.
No,
Don't
they
forget
took the
that.
whole charity
They took
jar.
the whole charity jar.
They took the whole charity jar.
That
You
was
just sitting on the
upsetting.
counter.
That was so bad.
All right,
was
that
low.
sounds like nothing to
The
think
guys
about.
running on hard times. But that charity was probably for them.
Let's
Probably
just say
not.
it sounds a lot like St. Jude. Okay, moving on.
All right, and then a couple days later, they said, "Oh, that was kind of fun." They actually said it was really easy, and then they said, "Let's do it again."
Sit
But
around playing video
in
games.
between that time that they did that, the two guys that testified and pled guilty did two more burglaries,
Correct.
two more robberies at gas stations on their own. So they have 4.
Right.
But the guy that we were charging in charge of saying
Judging.
whatever,
Yeah.
he only did 2 of them.
Correct.
So then they did another one, same thing. They stole goods. This is what makes it interstate commerce, which
Super
is
weird.
so interesting. And interstate commerce is what makes it
Federal.
federal. Now, how would you explain interstate commerce? Because
Sure.
it is such a I've read about it now because I didn't understand it for a while, but now I completely do.
So basically what they're trying to prove is that anything that is made in another state or in another country, if it comes across the interstate into the current state where that it is used or taken or stolen, that it now has become interstate commerce. So that it now has become a felon. So basically you're stealing from another state or you're stealing from another country. So let's say the cigarettes, which the store manager had to testify were purchased in Texas and that some of those cigarettes were purchased in China. And so they had to prove that that was interstate commerce because they had to travel the interstate to get to her store. And like the cars that they stole, they all had to prove with their VIN numbers, which was very fascinating, how a VIN number is, but anyway, how that they were made in other states. And then they were brought over to Tennessee by the owner, and because it was stolen, it's now part of interstate commerce. So it's now a
Same with the
felony.
gun.
And same with the guns. The gun was made in Texas,
Texas,
right?
yep.
Made in Texas. Part was made in Texas. Part was in Ohio.
It makes you think that anything is
Literally.
Anything that
Federal
means
credit.
if
It's
a
like-
kid
Literally.
steals a pack of gum, it's federal.
Right.
That's
Right.
insane.
If they want
If
to
they
put
want
it
to,
down,
yeah.
if they want to,
Pursue
they
that.
obviously
Which
wanted to
wild.
take these
Yeah,
guys
they
down
are.
for
Right.
everything.
So they kept on talking about every time they would talk about their crimes, they would say, so where was this in location to? How close was the interstate? Did you get on the interstate?
geez.
They said that to everything.
Everything.
And I kept thinking, why do they keep asking about this interstate? And then finally it clicked.
It took me
was-
so long. I was like, why
It
is
took
this
me like by day
federal?
3.
Yeah, it
And I
took
was
me like, why is
oh.
this federal?
Yeah.
And they kept saying interstate commerce, and we couldn't use our phone and look things up at this
Right.
point.
Well,
And I'm
that-
like,
anything.
that was one of the questions. Could you talk to each other?
No.
No.
So Jamie,
Zero.
Party of 4, thank you guys for your questions. Asked, could you talk to each other?
no.
Nope. They would tell us every single
So all
time.
these questions about
all these
interstate,
questions,
yeah.
and we would literally be everyone in the jury would be bonding over like this the trauma and what you're going through, and you're together for 8 hours listening to this stuff. And the judge would tell you every time that you walked out, he would say, I just want to give you this admonition again. You are not allowed to talk to each other about this. You're not allowed to deliberate about this. You may not look up this on your phone. You may not tell your spouse. You may not tell anybody at your work.
That was pretty messed up,
Like,
by the way,
you're not
because
allowed
Erin
to
and I
tell
share everything.
Anybody, right?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to tell anybody anything. So
And
you
you know-
walked out and you're like, so what's for lunch?
But the craziest thing is you'd go into your break room, and a lot of times people would pick up their phones and do stuff, but we didn't have
Couldn't do it.
phones. So you're forced to talk, which is actually a really cool experience.
Yeah.
We were forced to talk, but we couldn't talk about the thing that all of us had in
Right,
common.
the elephant in the room, literally.
And it was kind of like, and then, no,
Yeah, you couldn't say it.
Don't say
Right,
it, don't say it,
right.
don't say it, because we're like, I'm sure someone's
all
recording
thinking-
somewhere in
That's
here.
how you felt too. Like
I kind of really
All right.
wish.
All right,
I
let's get
really
to
wish
the-
you drank more so I could get you drunk and get you to tell me everything.
All right.
I feel
so-
like it would have been easier.
All right, let's go to the next thing. So they had finished, the 4 burglaries are done,
Yep.
or robberies.
Yep.
Then they said that they needed more money because more money came up missing.
Yep.
And actually at this point, they just wanted a car, and he wanted a fast car.
He wanted a fast car.
So they decided to walk.
Oh yeah, what kind of fast car? Did
Yeah.
you-
It was a Honda Accord.
Honda Accord.
So they walked
Mission
and they
marijuana.
found this apartment complex. They watched this guy pull in. It's late. has to
It
be
was
like,
almost 11:30.
yeah, it was late. So they go in, he pulls in, he gets out of the car. At gunpoint, they tell him to get out of the car, but he gets
panics
scared and jumps in the back seat,
seat.
which is interesting.
Yes.
So he goes in the back seat and they pull off and they keep him at gunpoint in the back, which makes it now kidnapping. So they take all of his wallet and everything.
cards.
And they go to, now they have his bank card. They go to the ATM, make him withdraw money, and they have video at ATMs
Yep.
of the gun to his head.
This is my favorite thing. Somebody asked him, "Did you know that there was a camera at the ATM?"
He said, not until,
He said, until I saw myself
not
on the
until,
camera.
I'm like,
Not until they showed me the footage.
I was
before
like,
the
who
trial.
doesn't know that?
Yeah. But also remember,
If they went to your school, you would teach those kids that there's
right,
cameras at the ATM.
I would.
I knew it.
My life skills
I knew
class,
it.
they would totally, 100%
yeah.
learn that. But the other thing was that they took the guy's license
this is what's freaky.
and told him, we're keeping this just so we could have insurance that if you tell the police, we know where you live.
And they
That's
said they
just
kill him.
up.
Terrifying.
They said they'd kill him.
Messed
So
up.
he
We will
didn't
kill
go to
you.
the police. They actually
No.
So
Anyways,
okay, this
okay,
is what
so-
happened. So then they drive to another city, and they're dumb, and they Bluetooth their phone to
They
the
Bluetooth their phone
carjacked
to his
car.
car.
So there's very, I mean,
Yes.
your phone is on there.
Incriminating evidence, yes.
very much so.
Yes.
They drive just basically a joyride with this
And
guy
they
in the car,
Facebook Live
and then they go Facebook Live
on their phones,
on their phones and do a drive-by shooting
drive-by shooting.
Oh,
with
my God.
this
Yes.
with this guy in,
In
the
the
car.
back seat.
Oh, he was in the back.
Back
was
seat
still
the
in the
whole
car.
time. Yes.
And they said,
Did they
"You
make
don't-"
him do the shooting? So they,
No.
And they said, "You don't want to know
That'd
how
be
many
so
times
messed
we've
up.
done this tonight."
You have no idea. Well, that actually came
No,
later
no,
with
no.
it.
That wasn't on that one. They
Yeah,
said
that's the
this will
first
be
one.
you
Right.
if you go to the cops.
This will be you if you go to the cops.
Get
Yep,
your details.
that's right. That's
There's a lot of details.
And so then they let him go after the drive-by shooting, and then they decide they want a white truck. Now they're going
Right.
to keep this car,
Right.
and they want a white
They
They
truck.
basically
each wanted
divvying
their
up
own.
cars. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
they
yeah.
each wanted their
They
own
did.
vehicle, and they were
I want my
dreaming
own
up which one they
vehicle.
wanted.
And this is all
I had
in
to share
one.
my
This
car
is
once with my
all
son.
in
I
one
hated
night.
it.
Yeah, okay.
This is all in one night. So then they drive to another city. It's about 20 minutes away, and they find another truck. They try to carjack this one. The guy, thankfully.
Had his car locked.
Thankfully, his car was locked, so they put the gun to the window. They tell him to give him a car, and he said, "Get effed."
Yes,
That's what he
This
said.
is Opreas open mic. He said, "Get fucked."
He did.
he did.
And then at the same time he said that, he leaned forward because his gun was under the seat.
Yep.
And they shot. And
Shot
when
through the
they
window.
shot, it would have hit him center mass had he not leaned forward for
It
his
went
gun.
over his shoulder and straight into his seat. It
Because
would have gone right
he
into
had
his chest.
fallen forward.
Yep.
And so then he flies back, pulls away.
Hits a brick wall, damages the brick wall.
Yeah. And then gets away and calls the cops.
Right.
They get away. They go back to the same town they were in. They're like, well, we still want another white truck. And so then they follow this one truck. This is terrible.
this
They
is the
follow
one.
this one truck into a neighborhood.
His neighborhood.
Yep, this guy's neighborhood. He is 18 years old.
Just graduated high school. About to
it's-
start.
Yeah,
about
it's
to start
this is
football.
July of 2020. So he's about to start his freshman year of college
Yep.
in August.
Football scholarship.
Yep.
Played football.
Devastating.
It's too much.
So he pulls into his driveway at midnight because his curfew, I guess, was midnight.
midnight.
His parents are like, he's always home on time.
Good kid.
He pulled in on time, but he also pulled out really quickly because they followed him in as soon as he opened his door. They put a gun to his head. And this time they didn't give him an option. They made him get in the back. So
seat.
there's another kidnapping.
They held a gun to him in the back seat.
Yeah.
And he said he was so scared and he scooted all the way over to the passenger side door in the back seat, holding onto the handle. And he wouldn't make eye contact with him because he was afraid he was going to aggravate them. He was so terrified. And, had the gun
And
to him.
yeah. And then they asked him for the way to the interstate.
But before they did that, they took his phone.
They threw it out.
They took his cell phone and they threw it out the window and it hit the ground out the window. And his parents had Life 360 on their phone, which was connected to their son's phone. And so when he didn't come home and they kept trying to find him, they were like, we see he's at this spot. But every time they go to that spot, they couldn't find him because his phone had been thrown out in that spot.
Oh shoot!
Yeah.
It's
They
crazy.
took his wallet. Tell about the money, about him saying he couldn't do it.
Oh yeah, he said he couldn't. His his parents had to approve, which isn't true. He just said this.
Yes.
Because they were trying to go to the bank and take his money too, the same thing. But he said,
My parents won't let me take money out.
well, his parents won't let, his parents have to approve it. And I think
Right.
they took it as the bank makes sure the parents approve anything because of his age.
Right.
But that wasn't the case.
I hope that if our sons ever get in this awful situation, that they think about our money.
They will not at all.
Okay.
I really do. That's
like,
amazing.
Whatever you want. Whatever
Listen.
ransom.
Like, you want my mom's
Hunter,
bank info?
hey.
Here you go.
Yeah,
If and when you
exactly.
get kidnapped, I need you to make sure the only lies you tell are that you can't take money out of my parents' account.
That's hilarious.
All right. So then they go to they want directions to the interstate.
Right.
But he takes them on the directions where he knows a lot of cops are with hopes that they'd speed or get pulled
So
over.
sad.
They did not. So they get to the interstate and they stop. I'll let you tell this part.
Yeah, so they get to the interstate and they decide, well, he's not going to be able to give us any money or anything. So what's, the use of having him? So they decide that they pull over on the shoulder of the interstate and they tell him to get out. So the kid's like, okay, thank God. So he goes to get out and he opens the door. And when he goes to turn around and shut the door, the guy in the back takes the gun and literally shoots him right in the face. And when he shoots him in the face, he puts his hand up like this to deflect the bullet, and it shoots his finger off right here at the tip.
So he's missing it.
And he's missing it. I mean, it was so, And the bullet goes through his jaw, through his teeth, and then lodges into this side of his jaw. Well, this has now turned him into a ventriloquist dummy.
So it's
his
just
jaw
hanging.
is hanging. We all saw this on all videos. Horrific. His jaw is hanging down like this. It can't hinge up now.
He's choking on blood.
He's choking on blood in his teeth. And he is running around the interstate.
But first he
Go
took
ahead.
his shirt
Oh,
off
he
and
took his shirt off.
he tied his jaw up. To
Tied
try
his
to
jaw
hold
up
it
to
so he
hold
could
it in
run.
place so he could run. And he starts running around the interstate.
Like back and forth.
Back and forth into oncoming traffic, waving his hands, screaming, trying to get people to stop. People think he's just crazy as all get out, which checks out. And he's running around.
Because he was probably
He was
shocked.
in shock and scared to death. Well, in the meantime, people are calling the police and saying, there's this kid running around the interstate. What's going on?
That is the wildest thing.
Right.
Is that
Nobody stopped.
nobody stopped, which is kind of understandable. You got a weirdo, but at least they called the cops.
at least
all
they
you
did.
see is just like, dude,
Right.
this guy's going to get hit.
100%.
Yeah.
And so they call, and so the police officer was able to go and who's going west and turn and go back east, and basically pulls him, waves him down to come over, and so he goes on the shoulder of the road. And the part that was to me probably the most heartbreaking was the officer had to treat him like anyone that would be running towards the car, in a very aggressive way. And he's yelling at this boy.
Because he tried to open the cop door.
And the police officer's like, get on the ground, get on the ground, get on the ground. And the boy is putting his hands up and he's shaking and he's holding his
He's trying to say, I've been shot,
and
but he
he's saying,
can't talk.
I've been shot. And we saw all of this
Because it's on a dash cam.
on the dash cam and the body cam footage of the officer. And so then the officer's like, oh my gosh, you've been shot. And
But
so,
then at first he's like, you weren't shot.
at first he says, yeah, you're not shot.
You're not shot.
Yeah.
But they were still called 911. I mean, still called
But
backup.
but once the officer, and I will say major kudos to these officers because
were great.
They were great. And the officer, once he realizes a victim, not someone that's trying to, come at me, he was so kind to him. And he was like, sit down, buddy, don't lay down. You're going to be okay. And the kid kept saying, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. He said, you're not going to die. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. He said, call my mom. That one got me.
Yeah.
He was like, call my mom. It was so heartbreaking. So they did get him help.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people asked, did he pass away? He did not. He
did not.
actually testified, and that's
testified.
what we were talking about. The parents, his parents were there. His dad was there through a lot of it. Heartbreaking to watch
When they
his parents.
showed pictures of what this young man looked like right before it happened, and they put him up on the big TV screens, the dad couldn't take it. And he just would
stormed out.
storm out. He couldn't take it.
You know what? The defendant slept through this.
Literally slept through the entire thing.
this testimony of this kid, 18-year-old talk. I mean, that was heartbreaking.
It was awful.
All right, so then,
Yeah.
okay, so after they let him go, they go back to an apartment complex. One of the guys gets out, so now just one's in the car, and that's the defendant.
Correct.
He's left in the car. He gets pulled over by the cops. The cops,
He's driving erratic.
yep, he gets
So they
pulled over by
pulled-
the, not knowing it was stolen, and then it gets reported stolen while he's pulling over, and then it ends up being basically a high-speed chase.
Yep.
He wrecks the car. He runs. They catch him in a gas station. That's kind of the gist of it. He gets arrested. The gun is in the car. His phone is in the car. They're able to,
Ammunition, his pockets, all of it.
Yeah, they're able to tap into his phone. And I learned a lot about phones. Everything is tracked.
I know
mean,
everything about you through your phone, even your deleted stuff.
If your phone gets captured,
Yeah.
everything you've ever done, they can get.
Yep.
Don't worry.
Yep.
There's nothing hidden on your phone.
Nothing hidden on your phone. Even your deleted stuff has a storage base that they can still
It
tap
does.
into.
And if your phone doesn't die, they have the short-term stuff.
Yep. Crazy.
So all my nasty stuff's on my second phone.
Yeah.
Well, they found your second phone too. Don't worry.
No. You don't know where it is.
So,
you didn't know I had
all right.
one.
So basically, that's the whole case. And then, did he get tried? So there's 13 charges. Number 9, we don't know what it was. Actually, wasn't a real charge against him. For some reason, he didn't get number 9. We didn't even see it. They blacked it out. We went into the deliberation room. Everyone basically said guilty on all but this one because we couldn't, even though his 2 friends identified him, I said he was guilty, no matter what. In the video, they're all 3 black guys, but he's really dark and he has the his hood pulled up and his mask is 2020, so we all had masks on. And you really couldn't see him, but we were finally able to identify him by the slides.
Cell phone and by the slides.
Well,
of his shoes.
the cell phones the whole time told people, but they're like, well, what if he wasn't carrying a cell phone?
Right, that's true.
I
the
mean,
slides. So
the
in the
slides.
jury room, we were going through the videotape and we kept pausing and pausing and pausing on the video. And what was so cool that we saw that I don't think that the prosecution even caught because it was like our own evidence we saw is when he walked in, we were able to freeze frame it on a spot where he picked his foot up and it showed his black slides.
And you could tell they were too big.
And they were too big, which came up earlier in the case when they talked about how they shared each other's shoes.
Yeah, tell me about that. How long
was
were they
so cool.
talking about sharing shoes? How long?
Ever.
Give me like a time.
Probably
Like, this is
20
crazy.
or so minutes, if not
20
more.
minutes on sharing shoes.
And it was
that's
like,
what
why
helped,
do you care about
That's what helped
sharing
in
shoes?
the deliberation.
Yes, yes, it did.
They
and
get
then
so
we saw a
detailed
picture,
on like,
100%.
is it interstate commerce? Okay, we get it. We
Right.
get it. And
But-
I assume the lawyers are trying to make sure that you hear it
Yes.
over and over and over
Yes.
again. At
They
some point,
say-
it's coming back.
If something is repeated 3 times,
times,
that's
pay
supposed to
attention.
be your hint to really recall that.
Yep.
So basically,
Sex.
I don't recall that. Block that.
Sex.
But so in the juror room, it took us, I would say, 10 hours.
Oh, yeah.
10
It took us the
hours,
first
10.
evening. Everyone didn't feel comfortable like with that particular charge that to convict him on. So we all just decided, okay, let's sleep on this. Let's think about it. Then let's come back in fresh the next day. We don't want to just make a hasty decision or pressure anyone to make a decision. And so we did. We slept on it.
Some
Came in the
people,
next day.
some of the jurors really had an emotional hard time.
They did. They did.
With the case.
did.
I mean, you see a lot, you hear a lot, and you're like, holy
And the
shit,
heaviness-
people actually do stuff like
Yeah.
this. And they do it for fun.
Right. It was just a joyride.
Was this their first
yeah.
time
Everyone.
through?
Well, there's a couple that had.
the bad guys?
Yeah, the bad guys. Was
No,
this
they're
their,
all-
No,
they'd
they've
all-
already had previous.
Okay.
One was a
Convictions.
felon. The one that we were the defendant, he was a
Jail
felon.
or just kind of
Oh,
running?
They never
They
said.
never said, but they had been locked up before.
They
Oh,
said
okay.
felonies,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
all we know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and that was the hard part too, is you didn't want to pressure anyone, but there are people that have such emotional reactions of saying, if we find this guilty on these charges, this puts someone away for life. And that is a very heavy, sobering.
It is something.
It is
you need to-
sobering
yeah,
thought.
you need
You
to
take
put
it
in
into
your mind.
consideration.
you cannot take it lightly, but I said you can't use feelings in this.
Right.
The feelings don't go into effect.
Right.
Is there evidence? If the evidence is there, it's
Mm-hmm.
guilty. If the evidence is not there, it's not guilty. This isn't about feelings. You have
And
to
Erin
take
did such a great job of like keeping everybody back on track because like she would, when people would start getting to the whole, but I feel like she'd be like, guys, this is about the
she's had
evidence.
practice. Like getting people
Rein
on
in
track.
your
I'm just
feelings,
saying.
God. Yeah, rein them in.
It's kind of messed up. I keep getting like hand signals. Like,
But, we were talking about
on track.
things on track. We were talking about some of the things that were funny was, so that was a wrap of basically the whole
Right.
case. That's how it all went. But something that was funny talking about like me talking to people was notes. It was an
gosh.
ongoing joke because they give you these notepads. Everybody's writing all these notes and mine is full of flowers.
She
because
literally
I
was
just
doodling
listened.
the entire time.
I just doodled
I took
and listened.
60 pages. 60
60.
pages of steno notes.
60 pages,
60 pages.
zero.
Zero notes. And she was drawing flowers and designs for her house.
It
But
drives
that's-
me
but
nuts.
that's- if I
It
do-
literally, this is like group project work in high school and college, and you're
told
the
her-
person that does all the work,
I told
and
her
you're
that.
the person that just gets the good grade.
I told her that. I said, I was the girl in high school that took notes for you, and you came in and took
thank
the
you.
test. You're,
Oh.
you're welcome.
Okay,
You're
but
welcome.
here's
I
the
can't believe I
question.
married that girl.
Who used the notes? Nobody.
Not the
Because
first one.
it was all, the
was all
judge
in your
even
brain.
said in the beginning, I want you to go, the notes
Yep.
are there if you absolutely need them, but I really want you to go off recollection.
Yeah. And
common
she
sense.
recollected
Didn't he say
and
common
common
sense?
sense.
Yeah, that was
And she
incredible.
recollected everything.
I mean,
Like, it
I was doodling, so
yeah.
I would stay awake because actually, if you just sit and stare at somebody for me, It's really hard.
Oh, yeah.
Also,
And
yeah,
so as
active
horrible
as
to
she
live with
is,
somebody who doesn't
I would
forget things.
just sit here and
I
like
told you that.
I would
She
just sit here
remembers.
and like do this
Yeah.
over and over.
She
But I
was.
wouldn't look down at anything I was doing. I was just drawing a circle around
because
and
you're
around
trying
and
to
around.
stay awake the entire
putting
time.
holes in my paper
She
going
did.
around
She
and
did.
around.
I would look down.
How did you stay awake?
Literally taking notes.
taking
like I
notes.
literally wrote down almost everything they said.
What was the general, what do you think, consensus on how everybody, because you took energy drinks.
I would say,
yeah.
But you never do.
I
I
took
gave
her
her one.
energy. I've never taken
Oh,
an
you
energy
took
drink
one
in my
too.
life, and I
Oh,
was like,
shoot.
"Can I have one of
Oh,
those?"
you were-
I was like, "I'm
Sean-
struggling."
You were- stock
you were
this up.
wilding out on that energy drink, weren't you?
I was sitting there. I was like,
This stuff's good.
I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Oh, yeah. You got any more of that? Yeah.
The
hit
next
me.
day, I was like, "So what you got in that bag?" Yeah.
Sean did give me some good stuff in my bag.
Oh, well, let's real quick though. Let's just say this: Sean was husband of the year. I will say this: Sean every single day brought in fruit or vegetable trays or Egg McMuffins for the entire jury and staff. So every time that we would come into the deliberation room, there would be a note from the juror bailiff downstairs that would say, "From Mr. Oprea with hearts," and it would be like a plethora of spreads of food.
He is a good man. He does make sure I'm
he
well
fed us
taken
very
care
well.
of.
Yeah,
He
fed
does.
us well.
He's good. He's a good guy. And he was really loving his vacation.
Did you guys
without-
vote who was the best spouse while you were
No.
judging people?
I mean, mine was stuck at home with 4 kids for a week and a half. So I
But
mean,
your
that
And you
husband
went to
was
12:30 Club.
amazing.
Yeah.
You got to, so this was the coolest
As
thing.
always.
Amber would hang out in downtown Nashville to skip traffic. And her husband completely cool with it. Girl, go, do your thing, and just
out.
chill and decompress.
Yep.
And
and then my traffic was only 30 minutes versus like the hour and a half.
Which
it's gonna
is
take me to get home.
that's really cool.
Yeah,
Which
that's
is where we connected and became friends. So it
One
all
night
worked
we went
out.
and then we just talked life.
Yeah.
Because you know me, I have no
I
shame.
did not know Erin from Adam, but Erin came in so sure of who she was. Everybody was like, "I want to get to know this girl. Who's this girl? I want to get to know this girl." A few people recognized you. And I just like totally got to know her on a regular person level and was like, this is the most amazing person. And then sure enough, we got to know each other in this world of jury duty with our 2 worlds
Right?
collided. Yeah.
She
super
was
cool.
excited to be there. Not so much.
No, she was not excited to be there, but
Not
I was
even
like,
all.
all right, here we are.
I tell you what, man, you didn't leave or come home in very good moods.
I
You
She
did.
had to sit still the entire
It
time.
was
No.
awful, yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I did not. I came home pretty
You
cranky.
adjusted.
I
She
did.
was doing
After the
push-ups
first-
in the jury room. And
After the first couple days, I calmed down a little bit. But the first couple days, I was like, man, this isn't for me. I don't know how these people do these office jobs. I would die.
she did.
But hey, different strokes, different folks. So we need everybody doing those office jobs.
right.
And I see how
Mad
people
respect.
gain weight on office jobs because all they have was like, when we sit there, it's
Little
like
Debbie
little
cakes.
Debbie treats. So I guess people bring treats into offices all the time.
Yes.
That's basically what it was. I was like, it was
Cheetos,
just,
Dr. Pepper.
I mean, I was eating
everything.
stuff I would never
Yes,
eat.
ever.
And I was like, who is this person?
Yeah, and your husband brought him McDonald's.
And then now that I would eat though. Egg McMuffins,
Those
those
Egg
are my
McMuffins were
weakness.
clutch.
They were so good.
Yeah, it
That
was
was part
great.
of the
But-
fruit.
The fruit was good, and we had it for a while because we had lots of it.
Yeah,
we were able to
fridge.
store it in the fridge up there.
That's
But this
great.
was awesome.
Yeah.
You guys, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to leave any comments you have. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes.
Yeah, if you missed your question, leave them below.
So we can
we'll
answer
get,
you.
Yeah, we'll get to you and we'll get those answers.
And thank you so much, Amber,
Amber,
for coming to
thank
hang out
you.
with us.
Thank you.
Heck yeah.
Had a
And,
great time.
Can't wait to hang out again soon, guys. Bye, everybody.
See
See
ya.
ya.